Hello, my name is Keith. Welcome. Today I want to talk about home buying advice that no one is telling you. I see a lot of things out here, people's talking about, I'll just go down to the bank and get a loan or what have you or whatnot. But that's not the right way to go about doing things. The smart way to go about doing it is getting pre-qualified yourself. Do it yourself first. You see, when you just go to an institution, lending institution, bank, mortgage broker, or what have you, they don't have access to everything. They don't have access to all the different products, and that's what they call it, products, loan products that are available. So therefore, they have a niche of products that's available. Each one of them, they have a limited amount of niche products. Most of those you can determine based on looking up their website or what have you. But in reality, you want to have an understanding of what you need and where you stand before you go into these institutions. So let me tell you a little bit about me. My name is Keith. Like I said, I own MrMadLife.com, and I used to be a mortgage broker. And that was back in when I was finishing up college. Actually, I still have my certificate here that I got it way back in the day. That was my first certification before I deep dive into the IT field. But anyway, I started out being afraid of committing to the responsibility and the amounts of money of paying a mortgage when I was already paying rent. So when I have conversations with people, I understand what they go through. Been through it myself. So it's very relatable. However, based on recent information, I've seen how the wealth gap is increasing in this country, and home ownership is a step towards building wealth, and is not being utilized. Why is it not being utilized? I think mainly because there's a lack of understanding or knowledge of what it takes to go about to get these home loans. And some people are choosing to just stay forever renting, not realizing it's really simple to go about. All you got to do is have the facts and then develop a plan. Okay? So, MrMadLife.com, I want to be able to spread my expertise in certain areas out to you, namely with this home loan. So I've helped a lot of people get home loans over the years and go about it, getting their finances straight, and also understanding what the lender is looking for. So recently I went ahead and put together a collection of the tools that I use in order to do this. I own several properties myself, and so I'm just giving you the real of what I have to offer. And you can get all of this is in the description, and it's called House Smart, because that's what you want to be. If you could do something or figure out one little decision that you can make that in that end would reduce your payment by $100 or a month, or maybe a couple $1,000s on your mortgage, wouldn't you do it? When you want to do it? Well, when you go into these lending institutions, you're basically pouring yourself into them when you don't have that understanding before you go in. When you go in with an understanding, you already know you're pre-qualified when you get there. And you'll know what they're looking for because you understand the lingo. I break all of this down in the House Smart book. The House Smart playbook will give you a step-by-step understanding, and it also is repeatable information, meaning every time you need to go for a home loan, whether it's a refinance, a purchase, or maybe even a HELOC, and I'll get into that later. But these tools will help you get a better understanding and be able to determine which lender would be able to fulfill your family needs at the right price. So once you make the smart decision, you will automatically save money because you're not going to choose the more expensive option. And your life is not an open book, so why should your finances? When you go into these institutions and you're not sure what's going on, they're going to ask for this, they're going to ask for that, they're going to ask for this, they're going to ask for that, and you don't know where it stops, and they could be asking for something that you might not be able to get or have access to, and therefore you get denied. So it's important to have pre-qualification. I think it's the most important feature in order to be able to go shopping. I'm somewhat of a shopping expert from different aspects. I'm doing a lot of shopping and do a lot of comparative shopping and comparative analysis when I do shop. And mortgages is no different. In my step-by-step playbook, I break down tools, kind of like in a mathematical equation, but easy to understand, so that you can go about having a different mindset when you go home shopping, and you can be confident that you know what you're doing, you know what you're getting yourself into, and you know when you go into that institution, you're going to be approved and not denied. Then you can go shopping for whatever type of house that you want, or refinance or what have you, with confidence. Okay. There's a lot of misconceptions out here. People try to tell you what's the best home loan to get and this and that. Well, that's for their situation. Or maybe they trying to drive you to a certain product or what have you. But everybody's different. How you make your money's different. What debts that you have or reoccurring bills that you have is different. Credit score is different. Your life has been different. And each of those little subtle nuances and more could make a difference in whether you go to the bank that you're dealing with or broker or what have you. And all of those play out in my tool, HouseSmart. You can go download it and get a good understanding of where you at, and form a picture, because you'll have a solid foundation. Then you can form a strategy, an effective strategy to go about getting the deal that you need for your home loan. I remember several years back, I went to a cookout, and the cookout was at it was a subdivision, and they were selling homes, and they had already sold some homes, and so they were having like a thank you cookout, and they had everybody was invited, prospective buyers, which was me and my spouse, and also existing homeowners, right? So I'm out there, and I sat down at the table with a couple other people. It was two guys in particular. One guy was around my age, maybe a little bit younger, and another guy, he was a little bit older or what have you. So they started talking, and during the conversation, they found out that they have the same exact model home, and they bought their homes one month apart. Okay. And purchase price, I heard, in between was pretty much the same. All right, so a couple years back, several years back rather, I was went to a home thank you cookout at a subdivision that was selling houses, and they invited the existing owners of the houses out there and the prospective owners, which was me and my wife, to come out there. So we out there, and I sit down with a couple other guys that was out there, and they lived in the subdivision, and based on the round robin conversation, found out they had the same exact model house, and they had bought 1 month apart. Okay, so on further talking, there was one of them was an older guy. He was a little bit older, and it was one guy who was a little bit younger than me, or what have you, and they were talking and found out their home prices were about identical. Okay, and it was based on options that they chose within the house. Well, they kept talking, and the older guy, he's a very respectable man and confident man, And he sat down and he was talking about how he worked for a number of years, and he was married before and he was divorced, and he met his new wife, and he had been saving up money, and he lived very frugal, and how over time he set aside, he had roughly 25 saved up. I don't know why they keep falling. Anyway, he had like 25K put up. So he was explaining to us how he went about and put $25,000 down on his house. And he was explaining, he was like, hey, you could do it too, you know, or what have you. And he did put the $25,000, which was the majority of what he had saved up over a number of years, and put it down on his house in order to get, you know, his house payment. And he was speaking from a point of authority to us. So we got into how much is your mortgage payment? And then he told us it was like, you know, about $1,300 or something like that. So the other guy, younger guy who had bought a house, he said, okay. Well, mine's like 11. And then he said, oh, okay. He said, you must put down a lot of money on that house. Or no, he said, no, I didn't put down a lot of money on that house. Not compared to you. So the older guy starts to ask questions. Well, how can you put down less money and your payment is less than mine? And they started talking, and I told the guy, I said, well, did you buy down points or what have you? He said, I just went in and went to the bank, and I told the bank I had this money to put down, and this and that, and they did all the paperwork. So how I could do it? I said, well, you know, chiming in, I said, well, you know, there's buy down points that they could have moved around or whatnot. I said, did you have bad credit or anything? He said, no, my credit is excellent. Everything is, you know, I had excellent credit or what have you. And the guy said, yeah, my credit was pretty decent. I ain't gonna say it was the best. He said, but he got a lower payment. That man got so mad that young man had a lower payment than him. He couldn't even eat his damn food. I said, Lord of mercy. And that goes back to showing about having an understanding before you get into these negotiations type scenarios with your mortgages. It's very important that you have an understanding before you start. And the decision is already made when you go to a lending institution. So therefore, the pre-qualification portion is the most important, and you need to do that in-house. This is something they should have taught in school. They don't, but you're gonna get it here. Just go down in the description, click on the link for HouseSmart. Pick up this knowledge and transform the way you view it. And you can just do it, just say, hey, I got a house as a nest egg that I'm sitting on, or you can start doing it and maybe building a real estate investment and compiling for multiple properties. Doesn't matter if it's a residential or commercial, you need these tools. All right. So while it's available, I got it marked down for a low price. So click on HouseSmart and we'll get with you later. Peace.